Tonight on A New Thing Live, it's author and former PBA player Eugene Tejada who'll be sharing his comeback story of fight and triumph over paralysis after a spinal cord injury called one of the worst in PBA history. In an exclusive interview joined by wife Andrea, you will hear from them both about what it takes to rise again. All this and more, and it's starting right now on A New Thing Live. Well, hello. Welcome to A New Thing Live. My name is Cindy Galley, and I am the host of this fairly new show. We just launched it in October, but we're having a blast. And so I'm so glad that you're here. We do have a great show for you tonight, a wonderful show planned for you tonight. So thank you so much for joining. For those of you that are watching on demand, not live, we're so glad that you made it. You are not going to regret being on this episode today. It is a powerful, influential, and all the above. And so I'm not sure if my Wi-Fi is going a little funky. So while I'm chatting, if you're having some difficulty with the Wi-Fi, let me know, and I'm going to see about switching over to another Wi-Fi, not browser, but you know what I'm talking about, like the little internet thing. So this is an interactive show. Hey there, Kiri. Hey there, Griselda, Pat. So good to have you from Anaheim. We want you to tell us where you're from, where you're watching, where you're joining from. And so I'm just set up right here to read those that are on YouTube, but also if you're watching us on Facebook, we want you to just join in and give us a thumbs up. We want to make some time for question and answering at the end of this episode, towards the end, for both Eugene and Andrea as well. So just get those questions ready, and we're just so excited. But hey, so we're well into the new year, and how are you doing? How is everyone doing? We want to make sure that everyone's doing well, that despite all of the CDC regulations and all of the increased cases going on, especially out here in California and some of these other areas, we just want you to know that our prayers are with you. We are praying for not just the state, not just for Southern California, but we are praying for this pandemic to lose its potency here on the globe. And so that is what I am praying, declaring that this pandemic needs to begin to decrease its potency, regardless of where it came from and why it came. I do just believe in the power of prayer, and so I do pray that everyone's doing well. Hey, Deva, good to have you with us. Welcome. So good to see you here. So yes, so we're well into the second week, and there's so much been going on, and I do hope everyone is safe with everything that's been going on, even within our country and our nation. And so let's just keep each other informed. Let's just remember that words, like seriously, remember that whole saying that sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. But that is not true. Really, words are powerful, and words can injure, words can hurt, words can leave scars. In people that you care about and people that you don't know, can sow seeds of just stuff. So we just want to make sure that the words that we're saying are words of life. You know, Proverbs says that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So tell me, can you guys give me a thumbs up if you're having a little bit of difficulty? Am I kind of going in and out? Do you see me scrolling at all, or do I look okay? Sonia, can you tell me? Do you see me okay? All right. Okay. If you have difficulty, just let me know. I definitely want to make sure that we are able to see every bit of the interview. So I'm excited. I don't know about you, but you know, we've definitely had some wonderful guest speakers here on this show. We came right out the gate, kicking off 2021 with powerhouse Monica Stenberg, who brought a strong, powerful word and just words of encouragement, some things that we already know of things that we need to do to have a prosperous, strong, thriving, effective 2021. And so for those of you that hadn't watched it, maybe you missed it, maybe you forgot about it. I know a few of you texted me throughout the week and said, I totally set my alarm and I didn't watch it. And I said, hey, no worries, because we're on demand. And so, but if you haven't yet had a chance to watch it, I encourage you to do that. I got a text from somebody just saying, it was so good, I'm going to watch it twice. So, hey, I also encourage you, like, get a pad out here and write it down. If there's something that just sticks with you or something that right here resonates, write it down. This is, of course, it's a time where we're going to have fun and we do get real, we do get raw, but also there are things that we are believing that as we're sharing, they're going to stick with you. It's going to be something that's going to make you go, I never thought about that. Or, oh, that's so good, I need to do that. Or maybe I was thinking about it and just never had that to kick me in the behind to do it. But right now, that thing he or she just said just did that very thing. And so get out your journals, get out your pens. I've already told you, start a watch party for those of you that are watching on Facebook. I mean, it is such a fun thing to do. And then you and your friends, y'all can just be typing little comments to each other and saying, hey, I think this is really good. Remember, we were just talking about that, because these are people that you do life with and you do things with. So since we're virtual, I'm just going to encourage you to go ahead and do that. So, are you ready? I'm so excited about tonight's guest. We really wanted just to be able to give him, this is it's a fairly new show, and so we're still trying to find our groove. Do we want 2 special guests? Do we want 3 special guests? We just want it to be 1 special guest. So we are really trying to find our groove as a new show, but we really wanted to make sure that you received everything from tonight's special guest. And so before we bring him out, we're going to watch a really quick clip of Mr. Eugene Tejada.
I went up for a rebound and I came down with the ball, and all I heard was a couple snaps, pop, 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 and then my body went numb.
The doctors initially said that he had a 4% chance of ever walking. Being the resilient man that he is, he wasn't going to take that for an answer.
Every morning I had to say a little prayer and believe in God that he's going to heal me and make me whole again. I know with God I can get there. Me marrying Andrea is a prayer answered, because I never thought this day or someone would marry me because I was hurt. She doesn't see me in this wheelchair. She sees me whole.
You are honest, smart, selfless, outspoken, very outspoken, a go-getter, and your beauty shines in and out.
That is such a sweet clip, and I have to say I had the privilege of being a firsthand witness to this, because I was actually a bridesmaid in the Tejada wedding. And so we're going to talk a little more about that later. But would you welcome with me today to our virtual set, author of Ready to Rise, Eugene Tejada. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello there.
I'm getting I still got to get used to the author part. This is so weird.
You are an author, my friend, and wow, I have to say your book is so good. It's so riveting.
Thank you.
It's powerful. It's insightful. It's emotional. It's so many things. You were just so raw, and of course, I want to really jump in. I mean, this whole book, but then we only have a little bit of time to talk about this, and then even to talk a little bit about your journey. But first of all, how are you doing? How's the family? Everyone doing in the midst of this pandemic going on?
You're mentioning you were skipping a little bit, so.
Okay.
But I think I got gist of what you were saying. But no, we're good here. We went to Florida to visit Andrea's parents during the holidays, so it was good to get a little break of always just staying home. So we got to see some family, spend some quality time with them. Now we're home, just staying home, trying to stay safe with Andrea being pregnant, and we're almost ready to give birth. We don't need any extra issues to deal with before we get there. So we're just going to stay home and hunker down here until baby girl arrives. But overall, we're well. I'm homeschooling the boys. They're getting big and a lot wilder. So not a dull moment in the Tejada household for sure.
How is it handling twins? Because I'm sure that one toddler alone would be a handful, but you've got two.
People always ask me that question, and I always say, I don't know any different. This is how I got my first hand in being a father, was to have twins right away. So I adapted very quickly. Are we still here? Hello? 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 I think I lost her. There we go. Here we go. We're back.
Okay.
We're back.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah, I don't know.
I didn't hear a word you said. I was saying,
Okay,
I know you were a handful, but
how is it being a father of twins, let alone, you were saying it would be easier with one. Like I said, like I was saying, I got thrown in to having twins right away. So I don't know any different. So I had to adapt right away. And I think with me being injured, I can adapt very easily to different situations. It might just take time, and I've learned a lot of patience with my accident. That everything's just going to need a little more time when I'm doing it.
yes. And if there's anything that I'm sure that you have so many things that you've learned. I was like, wow, just reading your book, there were so many takeaways for me in every chapter. I
Yeah.
thought, my goodness, there's so many. I don't like to use the word necessarily lessons learned, but in a sense, there were things, maybe there were values or principles or definitely a mind shift and some mind changes that took place. And so, yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that you're having just to be flexible and roll with the punches, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit then about, reading Ready to Rise. Some of this I didn't even know. I've known you for some years now, but there were so many things that about relationship with your dad and just some of these other things that were they resonated for me. And I'm sure so many readers would be able to say the same, but would you go back to, how old were you, first of all, when you had that heart or that desire to play basketball? I knew that your dad was a former professional player in the Philippines as well.
Yeah.
But how old were you when it was something that you realized, I would like to do this?
I think very early, maybe second, third grade. My dad would take me to his little tournaments that he used to play in, and I would see him play. So get a glimpse of what my dad used to do before he was an accountant. And then, just that camaraderie me and him had with my brother of going to the park and just shooting baskets. And then where we really connected was over like NBA basketball games and college basketball games, where we would just talk about basketball. And then that's when I felt like, oh, maybe I want to do this. And I gave it a shot and I fell in love with it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's, to me, it's clear to see that was something that was placed in your heart as a dream, because it is directly connected to your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I know it, it didn't turn out the way that you had thought it would.
Yeah.
So, looking at that clip, it's hard even to watch it a little bit, and I was just thinking about, like, how many times have you had to see that clip? How many times, when did you get to that point where you're able to watch it and be like, okay, I'm okay watching this now? Or does it still get you every time?
So it took a while for me to watch it, because I was still grieving the loss of my career, something I worked hard so long for, and it was gone. But and then I didn't see it for a while, and I was fine just to glance at it. but it all came back when my book started to come out, and I had to see it and use it as like promotion and get people interested in the book and see what happened to me, and kind of like just build that backstory about my book. When I saw it again, just maybe in the summer, I definitely teared up. Just a lot of emotions just came flooding back, and especially, it was hard that my kids saw it. Not that they were sad, but that's what I used to be, and I wish they could have seen me at that state at one point. And it was just hard. Like they can see Daddy was running and jumping, and now they see the last thing they see is me crying on the floor. And but they reenact it all the time. So I don't think
do. Oh no.
they don't understand the seriousness.
Sure.
But they do copy it all. Like even with the mini basketball hoop in the backyard, they go, "Daddy, this is you," and they'll dunk it and fall.
Oh dear. Oh no.
I think okay, so it's kind of it's not sad for them, but for me, seeing them how they reacted, it just kind of like, I wish they could have seen me at least a little bit.
Yeah. And, and then with, access to former footage and things like that, I know it's not the same, but I think it would be so wonderful at some point for you to be able to enjoy some of those moments as they get older, because obviously now I don't think they realize that. But okay, so talk to us about that day. I know you've had to relive it in writing your book, even in recounting the story the clip that we watched. You said you fell and then you just heard this pop, pop, pop. Tell us a little bit about, what that day was like for you.
It was actually started off as a really special day for me and my family. My sister just graduated from college and a nursing degree from Dominican University up in Northern California. And I woke up a little early just to call everyone and call her and congratulate her. And so it was like on a high. I got to talk to my whole family. Everyone was together celebrating my sister. But it took me out of my little routine I usually have. A lot of athletes are very superstitious. Like we go to a certain diner, and then, well, for me, I went to a certain diner every morning when I had a game, and the waiter knew where I sat. He gave me the newspaper, the remote. He knew my order. Everything was just
wow.
Point. But that day I didn't do that because I wanted to make sure I called my family for my sister's graduation. So it started off great, and then it ended up being the worst day of my life.
Wow,
let's just start. We started off, it was a great day. My routine was off, being superstitious as an athlete. Everything was off, and that ran through my head after the accident. Like, why didn't I just go to breakfast? Stuff like this. It's silly to say now, but we're superstitious as athletes. And then went to the game.
And I noticed that you had some of those what ifs, like what if this hadn't happened? What if I hadn't have gone for that rebound, or what if I hadn't had that like aggressive, like I'm gonna get this ball, a lot of those what ifs.
Yeah, but when I try to think of those what ifs, it's like I couldn't find a way out. Like I would have did the same thing every single time. That's just the way I was. I was like one of those garbage players. I don't know if you know what garbage players is, part of a team. Kind of just, he doesn't get too much shine, but he does all the dirty work to help the team win. You know what I mean? Like, he'll do the unglamorous things on the basketball court to help his team win. And
got it. I had never heard that until I read your book. I thought, oh gosh, I've never heard that in my whole life, but it made sense. It's the way you described it.
Yeah, it happens a lot in professional sports. You understand who are the stars, who needs the basket, who needs to score, who needs to do certain things. And with me struggling early in my career, I was just trying to find my niche. And I was like, I guess the star of like high school, or not even high school, maybe even college, and then travel team, and then went to the PBA, the professional league, where I was humbled, where I didn't play right away, and I started to lose my identity and like, am I even supposed to be here? So then once I got to the team I got hurt with, I was just trying to find my niche, and I found my niche as becoming that guy that just does everything.
Yeah, and it seemed like in reading the book to you, you did some of that was motivated by some of what you were still looking for in that affirmation that you said you were had even been wanting from your dad,
Yeah.
growing up, and how like you would play in the basketball court and you would look up, in the stands to see, is he watching? Is he there? How's he responding to my playing? And I think that chapter really, spoke to me. I grew up in a private school, and so our games were like more intramural. So our parents really didn't come because we played against each other. But
Sure.
just the whole approval of the dad, I mean, I really could resonate. I think so many people, we grow up with issues, and a lot of those issues stem from these unmet needs, maybe as a child, or traumatic things that happened to us as kids in relationships with our parents,
Yeah.
good or bad. And so anyway, yeah, absolutely.
Like when you asked me about when did basketball start for me, after reflecting on it, like I think it was just to get that love and adoration or that acknowledgement from my dad, because there was a difference of. I talk about it in the book. I suffered with a lot of learning disabilities growing up, and I never really tried in anything else. And my dad wasn't. He wanted me to get good grades, but that was not like a focus. So if I had bad grades and did really well on the basketball court, he'd be my best friend. But when I didn't play well, he was my toughest critic for sure.
Wow, isn't that something? Okay, so I'm sorry it interrupted you. You were talking about your routine that day, that it was a little bit off in May on Mother's Day in 2006.
Yeah, and then we went to the game. I was coming off an ankle injury. Wasn't really supposed to play, but we were getting blown out in the fourth quarter. And the coach asked me, "Do you want to get play and just get the kinks out because you haven't been playing the last few games because of your ankle injury?" I said, "Sure, why not? We're getting blown out. I can use these 8 minutes to just kind of fine tune my game and see what things I need to work on." And I went in, scored a basket, maybe a minute or a minute and a half into when I got in that fourth quarter. And then I went up a few plays later. I went up for a rebound, and that's when everything changed. I went up for a rebound, and my teammate was driving. He got fouled. I got the rebound, and as I was falling, I fell, and then someone fell on top of me, which broke my C5, C6, which left me paralyzed from the neck down, and the only thing I could move were my eyeballs. And you talk about that scene. That scene is of me crying was not because I was in pain, because I knew something was really wrong. And the craziest thing I wrote about in the book, I was reading the Christopher Reeve's book.
Yes.
And it was so weird that like I was in the middle of that book just because of being a big Superman fan growing up as a kid. Just wanted to see his struggle and what he's doing, how he's doing, and then it happened to me. So I knew instantly I was paralyzed, and I think the fear set in. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's gone. Like I'm not going to play basketball again. I may never walk again, and all that was running through my head. And yeah, it was those tears are not tears of pain. It's just
right.
Everything was gone. Everything I worked for. My whole identity was put into this one sport.
Yeah, so many things that we could talk about. Yes, because you did talk about how so much of your identity was wrapped up in basketball. And so then I was just thinking of all the different people whose identities are wrapped up in things that are not very strong foundations.
Sure.
I remember years ago reading a book called The True Measure of a Woman by Lisa Bevere. I was in graduate school and I was just floored. I thought, oh my goodness, she talked about how, you're not your income, you're not where you live, you're not what car you drive, you're not what you do for a living, and so you're not what size you are or what weight you are. And so for me, some of those things really spoke. So you addressed identity so powerfully and so beautifully. And then I loved how you really laced your book with scripture and how you identified two certain specific stories. And so I believe it was maybe Matthew was the one that you said that was like, that is my story. Was it Matthew?
Which one?
Let me see. I'll see if I know you have a lot in there, and I got a lot of notes and all of these things. But no. So
I tried not to be so much in the, but it just that's who I am. That's who my identity is wrapped into. It's just like
yes,
it has to come out. It's like you don't want to lose people who are not believers, but then I had to look at it like those might turn people who don't believe into believers.
yes. Well, I was even just touched at how you had already had your hands on the book regarding Christopher Reeves. I felt like, wow, you probably didn't realize then, as you were reading it, but I felt like even that was from God himself, like was a gift to you, and just even preparing and the mindset. And here you are reading about something that you would eventually be experiencing yourself. Yeah. In a sense of like a book that's, you're reading it beforehand. Well, only the Lord really can help bring something like that into your path or into your hands, even before you're experiencing it. Yeah. So I just thought, wow, just even reading that, my eyes just really teared up. I just thought, man, Lord, you're so amazing. Not that I say man, Lord, but he's just so amazing in helping connect the dots and really trying to give us what we need even before we realize and know that we need it.
Oh yeah, I have a really good story too. When I first started to get into the Bible or start believing in Jesus was how Jesus healed the paralytic. And when I first picked up the Bible, and God knows how long, it was the first story I ever opened up to was Jesus healed the paralytic. So you're talking about like God was already setting me up, and then when I first wanted to reconnect to something higher than me, I opened up a Bible, and it's about Jesus healing a paralytic, and that's like a really profound story for me. How I actually really gave my life to Christ was through that story, and in that story, it talks about his friends and the friends that had to rip down the roof or like bring him up the roof and then rip it open for the paralytic just to meet Jesus. I feel like I had a community of friends that did that for me. Were laying seeds, planting seeds in my head while I was in the hospital, while I was at my darkest time. And when it was ready to flourish, it all just started coming back. So I think that's a major story in the Bible that really pushed me or like got God's attention, or I got God's attention. Or he got
yours. He got yours.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about the journey down the hill, because you talked about just the streets and all of that little area where you were playing, but then you had to, once you were in the ambulance and you had to make it down, and you just talked about some of the things that you were experiencing, like the nauseousness, and then if I can be so graphic, even like vomiting, probably not just because of motion sickness, but your body just reacting to whatever. And you were so transparent, Gene, just in reading how you had a choice to make. Yeah. And you thought about, do I just give up right now? And you said nobody would think otherwise, because of the condition you were in. Nobody would have said, oh, why did he do that? But they would
have never known.
They would never have known. They would never have known. But then you said, I thought about my family. I thought about my sister, Dana, who had graduated from college that very same day. And you went on, you thought about your brother and James, and then your parents. And then you said, and so I fought for my life with everything I had, using every ounce of strength I could muster. I forced myself to cough out my own vomit, because you said you were choking.
Yeah, when you have a spinal cord injury, you lose everything. So my lung capacity was gone. I couldn't even blow. So imagine just vomit just sitting in my throat, and you can't move your neck because you just
right.
And you're just looking up in this ambulance. So whatever I had in me just to get that, whatever was stuck in my throat, because And when you throw up, it kind of goes in your nose, and you're trying to breathe. It's kind of like you're gargling.
Yes.
I know it's kind of grabbing your nose and your mouth. And
Yeah.
you're laying there looking up, and you can't turn your head to spit it out. Yeah, I was like, I thought I was going to die that day, and I said I chose not to. Just too many people care about me, especially my parents and my brother and sister.
Well, you made that choice to fight, and as a result, so many years later, people are reading this book of your story and your account, and I know that people are being pulled out of stuff, because you address mental issues, you address emotional issues, and just things that people struggle with. That sometimes can lead to someone's demise. And so you even talked a little bit about your party life and how, you were at the top of your game, and you were just like, you were living a little bit of a rebellious life, you did admit.
Yeah.
But it definitely was life in the fast lane. But even with all of the attention and the accolades and the money and the bar hopping and the women and your so-called circle of friends,
Yeah.
I what stood out to me is that you said there was still an emptiness.
Yeah.
There was still something that was lacking,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until you found yourself in this predicament that part of that journey involved you facing some of that stuff and dealing with some of that stuff and really having a true revelation of what matters, what truly matters, and what matters most.
Yeah, and I say that probably all my interviews, that this accident didn't happen to me; it happened for me. Like when you were talking about, like, I reached the top. I was about to sign this big contract and more endorsements. I was like at the peak, about to hit the peak, and I asked myself, I can even remember it, just like looking out the window in my condo, and I was just like, "Is this it? Like, this is it. Still feels empty." But it was not a thought that would last it forever, but it was like a moment in time that you can always remember. Like, I've worked so hard, and this is all that there is. And then a few weeks later, I got injured. It's crazy. And then I really think this accident was a blessing. That it kind of slowed me down from that fast life and getting caught up into that life of being known and being in the clubs and just being a public figure, that I needed to slow down and kind of examine who Eugene really is. And it took a long time after my accident as well, because I had to carry on that. I had to carry another kind of false self. I would say was me being a victim of my accident, and I carried that for a long time before I got into the nitty gritty of who I am.
Yeah. So you talk about even some masks in the book,
Sure.
just some of the different masks that you have worn, but had worn, but also those are masks that I think a lot of people wear.
Mm-hmm.
And how was it for you? Like, what was that true? When was that moment where maybe it was different moments where like different masks just started to come off and you realize this is not, I'm being hypocritical, which even that whole Greek term, I was like, I had no idea that it really goes back to acting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making a decision from under. I was like, oh, wow. It's like, I'm like, you really went there. I mean, I appreciated all of the work and the research that you took in really putting this book together. It just was so well written.
I got to give a credit to my co-author, Mark Chan. Like, I told the stories, but he would help pull out these different things to kind of put it together. I was like, it was perfect. So
good.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody, maybe just in general, like if there's masks, someone's watching right now and they're saying, yeah, I wear masks all the time. What would you say to that person to help them be free from walking with that mask on so they can walk in that true freedom? You talked about how you rewrote this book a few times because the first versions were really not you. You said it was almost like it was a lie. It wasn't really me.
Yeah, with those masks that I was wearing.
Yes.
Saying who Eugene is what the people want him to be.
Right.
Who he
So
is.
what would you say to somebody who, they're wearing 1, 2, 3 or more of the masks,
I think first of all, some people don't realize that their masks are like welded on. They don't realize they even have a mask. So I think first, some people just needs to slow down and not be so busy trying to numb themselves with different situations, and kind of they really want to understand who they really are. Is just take the time and pray and meditate and kind of examine who you are and who God wants you to be. And I think it's exhausting trying to wear all these different masks to just appease people that probably don't really care that you are funny, that don't care that you're a womanizer, or don't care that you have all these things. It's just, I think it's just people need to take the time and examine and see who they really are. And I found that through just reading God's word, and what He says I am. That's who I am today. And I think, yeah, it's just exhausting.
Yes. I remember in 2005, there was a portion of that year where I was filming a lot, and I would hide behind the video camera. And this way I wouldn't have to really talk to a lot of people, just because I was going through like a deep, dark night of the soul.
Sure.
And but I was in ministry, and so I would just hide behind the camera so I didn't have to look at people and make eye contact to say, I'm not doing well right now.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, some people are more transparent than others. If I'm not doing well, you're going to see it on my face.
Yeah.
If I'm happy, you know it. If I'm discouraged or bummed, you know it, because it's just on my face. So when people would see me, I didn't want them to see, oh, what's wrong with Cindy? She's not her normal jovial self, and it was quite a few months that I walked around like this. But I think you're absolutely right. They first have to do, there needs to be some reflection to say, what mask am I wearing, and why am I wearing it? When am I wearing it? Because they may not wear it all the time.
Yeah.
But I was once about maybe it's more like 6 years ago, maybe even 7 years ago. I was in a musical called Annie, Get Your Gun.
Uh-huh.
And one of the opening songs was There's No Business Like Show Business. And when I was learning that song, I was horrified. I said, this is an awful song. It's like all these things are happening, but it's like, well, let's go on with the show. Like, you still got to have your, put on your smile and get, and I understand that is the nature of show business, but there are a lot of people who aren't in show business that will do that very thing.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I think that's so good for any, that are watching, just to come to that understanding and really just take the time. And there's no time like now, whether it's not because it's a new year, but I think, there is no time like now to say, hey, maybe this week I will take time to say, what am I hiding from, and how do I hide? Because, that's so important. Then I think on that, you can start rebuilding your identity and finding out who you are and who are you really, and why do you have that foundation? So you said that for you, that foundation was Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And you talked about that there was times where you were, upset or angry with him. What year did you just come to that full decision to say, I am truly just making you the Lord of my life? Was it after you met Andrea?
Yeah. So we had kids already. Like, I was saying I was a Christian and doing all the Christian things, and but not really submitting every aspect of my life. And I wrote about it in the book. I think I might have told you, or Andrea might have, where I was having visions maybe 2-3 years ago.
Yes.
Dreams, maybe on my 38th birthday. I was just having dreams of like I was this ball of light, and everything was trying to get out, but it was just people were only seeing glimpses of it. But I was covered with so much stuff that was on top, garbage or whatever, trophies, accolades. That's when I realized my real self is all trapped in through these false selves, or you know, I'm not my authentic self. Like
Yes.
I was just carrying so much baggage that it happened. Yeah, that vision where I needed to strip down and get it all off of me. So then I was having those visions, and then I just said, God, just take over. And that's when this whole third book started. Was when I let God take over, and then started to share my story with my co-author, and we started to write this third book. So maybe 2 years. Well, how old am I? Yeah, 2 years ago. 2 years
Okay.
ago. I'm 40 now.
Yeah, no, it is just such a good book. And I'm excited to share that we are going to be giving away 2 of your books.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, so that'll be towards the end, towards the end when we have some of that Q&A. We are going to bring Miss Andrea out in just a few minutes. Let me see if there's anything, because I feel like we really would need like 3 or 4 hours with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can have me on again. There's a lot. There's a lot.
You talked about naysayers and how people come and kill your dreams, and sometimes that we ourselves are the people that kill our own dreams with our own words, with our own thoughts. How do you deal with some of those thoughts? Because you talked about even like, there's 2 sides to every coin. So you can look at something one way, or you can choose to look at it another way. How do you find yourself having victory to keep pressing forward with the things that you know that God has called you to do? Because clearly you thought you were going to, have this PBA professional ball career. And then you said the minute that happened to you, I think it was on one of the pictures, you said this was the minute I knew my life would never be the same.
Yeah. I think I've experienced the highest of highs of what humans can have, and the lowest of lows that any human can have. I think I found my sweet spot by staying right in the middle. Just not getting too high on anything, not getting too low on anything. Like nothing will make me like too depressed. Nothing will make me like jumping for joy. But because I know that's fleeting. Life is full of ebbs and flows of like good and bad, good and bad. You just got to find that middle ground and just stay there and kind of focus there, and just that's how I handle it. I've experienced everything from the highest to the lowest. That I found that middle ground, and I try to stay there.
So good. And so let's shift a little bit now, because you left Manila.
Sure.
And you knew you needed to come back to the States in order to take your recovery to the next level.
Right.
And after doing all of your research or whatnot, you ended with, I don't know if you call it SciFit,
Yeah.
but Spinal Cord Injury Fitness Center.
Yeah. Up in Pleasanton, California.
In Pleasanton, California. And so it sounded like that was, you said, it was kind of, you didn't call it gruesome, but you said it was like the U.S. Military, like they loved you, but they were really hard on you, which I think you probably really needed in order to get to the place you are at today.
Yes, they were.
Talk a little bit about that process, if you would, and then what were some of the things that you had to take control of, even of your mind, to be able to carry out the habit of working extremely hard? Because in the beginning, it seemed like, I think maybe, I don't know if it was with the Alaska Aces, but you were saying that there was a point where, you'd wrap your ankle, but you were just half wrapping it.
Yeah.
Like,
I knew I wasn't going to play. So like, why get all this sticky stuff near my feet? So just put it on the top part. Yeah.
But then it's like you truly, like, you see the perseverance, and that character within you changed. It changed to where you didn't matter that you were told that you only had 4% to ever walk again. It didn't matter. Didn't matter that it took you, you felt your toe move after the first surgery, but then you didn't have a whole lot of progress immediately following those days. But yet you never gave up hope, and you did the work. What was that like for you? And talk to us about, some of the mind things that you had to overcome to push yourself to the place to be where you're like, no, I am going to rise again. I will walk again. I will stand up again one day.
My first try to, kind of show everyone that I will get better. It was not for me. It was me, more of the people pleaser in me, to prove people wrong, or make people prove people wrong. Right? Like the doctors told me I had 4% chance, so I would just focus on what people, the naysayers, and use that as motivation. And then when things get down, I had those coaches and trainers at SciFit that would push me harder than any of my professional coaches in training. Because imagine you can't move a thing and you're asking someone to move it and you can't. So you have to, like, it's a mind, it's your mind is just like, move, and it's, you're just looking at it, but it's not moving. And then eventually it's just mind over matter, where for me, I can't say for every spinal cord patient. For me, I kind of just focused on like one body part and like focused on trying to move that area and just keep using that and just moving. Once it starts moving, move to a different area. It was all mental. This physical injury was pretty easy compared to the mental part of this whole thing.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, even looking at some of the footage, and Sonia, if you would just play some of that B-roll even as we're chatting about it, just looking, at you, like, trying to get up. And I thought, wow, a lot of people would just be so willing to say, I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's one of the words that you said. You're not going to say those words, I can't. That was one of the 4 words that you had mentioned, that they don't do well in your vocabulary. And so, but I mean, just to see the hard work you did, and I know that you still have every day, I know that things don't just come, easy to you. Reading, I just identified, when you were sharing about even getting behind a wheel, I thought, oh my goodness, that must have been the craziest thing to be like, I'm going to drive a car now.
It really was.
I'm like, oh, he's so brave, and you truly are, that's one of the words, but they're, you're courageous, and just, you have so much grit and so much determination. I know that it's God's grace that's in you, who's enabled you just to get to the place where you are today. But, a lot of us, maybe have not experienced that devastating injury, which you did, in your book. You called it, I don't know that you called it a blessing, but it was a different word that you used for it. You didn't consider it, oh boy, yeah. I mean, there's so many things here.
Yeah.
Do you know which state I'm talking about when you said, I don't call it a, oh goodness, I don't want to get stuck on this one word. But anyway, in some regard, you did call it a blessing in a way, but that's not the word.
I really think that this was a blessing. I mean, what people might see on the outside is like, no, how can you call that a blessing? You lost your career. You lost, your ability to make money. At that time, I lost my girlfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all the things that I really didn't need in my life. I really just needed to find God, and I'm not going to say he allowed this to happen. He didn't do this to me.
Right.
And the devil is only steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes.
But then God can use it for good, and I just had to find that silver lining where the good was. And I'm living in the good right now with my beautiful wife and 2 kids, and another one on the way. And then
another one on the way.
I'm very content with my life. After when I got hurt, there's nothing I ever wanted more than was to have a person to love me for who I am, and I found that. And then to be the ability to have children, when you get injured, everything shuts down, so you worry about that. And now I'm blessed to have 3. God willing, we still have a few more months, a month to get there, month and a half. But no, I'm living in that blessed part of this whole thing,
You are now living on. Now, to me, what I see in you is you are now. This is what it is to be at the top
Right.
of the game. This truly is. I mean, my heart just leaps for joy. I think even talking with you, reading your book and just seeing how far you've come. You talked about putting all of your energy into, had you put your energy into building your skills as a professional athlete rather than, bar hopping and all of these things. But what I see is that you are that person now. You are investing in the right things.
Yes.
And the right people, and God has brought the right people and the right things into your life as well.
Yes.
So exciting. Absolutely. Well, I think on that note, because I want to talk a little bit about your love life. You did mention that, your girlfriend at the time, she broke up with you.
Yeah.
And, and just, reading that, I was like, oh my goodness, I wish she could have at least just from the get-go just been very honest with you. Just that. Yeah, I just wish people would do that. Like, if you're in a relationship and you're gonna cheat or you're cheating or just be honest and like let that person know and don't drag them. That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other episode. You can bring me in. You can bring me in for that one. Mine happened publicly. So it's public knowledge, so I can talk about it. I'm just not going to say her name.
I didn't see that announcement, but yes, she did do it publicly on television, which I thought that is awful.
Yes.
But here we go. I mean, you have and you mentioned, a beautiful wife, a loving wife. You talked about in the book, she's smart, she's intelligent, she's talented, she's, beautiful inside and out. She's caring, she's generous, she's loving, she's giving, she's entrepreneurial, she's so many things. And to me, she's just like the perfect fit and the perfect gift that God would give you and would give her is the two of you together. So I do want to bring her out. And before we do, we have one little clip of Miss Andrea before we bring her out to our virtual set.
The very fact that Gene is here standing strong is an absolute miracle. And all of you I will hold. My love will clothe your bones.
Oh, it's beautiful. Gene, ironically, you have taught me to walk again. When I feel paralyzed by my fears and doubts, you challenge me and show me how to persevere beyond them. Gene, I've seen you at your worst and I get to see you at your best. And I choose both. I choose you. I promise to always keep you full. Your stomach, your heart, and your joy.
There's never been anything you...
I would wish you both the best of luck. Please take good care of her. If you don't take good care of it, I come after you and you can't run.
So sweet. Welcome, Andrea, to the set. Welcome to the New Thing Live. There we go. How are you, my friend?
Good. Pregnant, very pregnant, but good.
Tell me exactly how far along are you now?
I am 32 weeks pregnant, so like a month and a half to go or so. Yeah.
Well, you look amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And just even looking at that video, I think yours is one of those weddings that I repeatedly tell people about. Your vows to each other. I mean, those were the funnest vows that the two of you, could share, him talking about how you're very opinionated or very, and then I don't know if that was the word he used, but he said it again. Yeah.
You can put that one in there too. Opinionated.
He didn't just say outspoken once. He said very again. But you don't hear that in weddings.
In a loving way.
It was so sweet that I just thought, now this is like an authentic, genuine wedding. It just felt so good, just to see. And then your vows, telling him and when you're sharing with him how ironically he's the one that taught you to stand.
Mhm.
I remember doing the ugly cry at that point.
A lot of crying at that wedding.
Yes, there was a lot of beautiful
Happy
tears,
but
celebration. And, even as I was, rewatching that clip, I thought that's exactly what his book is doing. His book is causing people to stand. Your book is causing people to rise up. Your book is causing people to walk again.
Yeah.
So even though she said that to you back in, 2014, it's still, your life is still doing that and inspiring people to do that. So now I want to fast forward, because we've talked about, his accident and some of the, the painful things that he discovered even about himself, things that he had to let go of, things that he had to persevere and work through to be able to stand and rise again. And then in the midst of this all, he re-meets you because you all met in the Philippines in 2004. You had you just graduated from USC?
Yep. Yeah. So my best friend and I, we took a trip. We decided to spend a month in the Philippines, and that's how we met.
Yeah.
And we stayed in touch throughout that, since then, primarily as friends. And we reconnected after his accident. Yeah.
Yeah, you're really good about staying in touch. And he did share that. And I had to nod my head as your friend. Like, you do a really good job of that. And that just says a lot about who you are. So I enjoyed just reading that because I do remember, being your friend and, you letting me know that, you had reconnected with Gene and from years ago. And, you were letting him know that you now knew the Lord and all of these things. So I was reading that, but I was excited, just to be rereading it and being like reminded of like your journey and what was happening on the girl side of things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're there for it all, Cindy.
Girl, we did redeeming the time and everything.
Yes, we did.
We had to do all of that, so that whole soul searching and that out and throwing those extra weights off. But I loved that, he just, one of the things that he said, and I can't remember if it was in the book or in the clip, but he said, you just see him for him, and that, he of course had the choice to say, I'm going to be vulnerable to you at this point, and he chose to do that. But to me, it was a two-way street. Obviously, as any woman, you have to be the one to decide, do I want to, anybody, do I want to go out with this guy again?
Yeah.
So talk to us about, share with our viewers some of, what you were walking through, and were there any questions that you had? And, clearly the Lord had given you a love for Gene, just a beautiful love that he talks about in the book. But, talk to us about your journey a little bit as a girl coming into not even being married yet, but just what it was like, dating and what your thoughts were when he asked you to be his +1 at his cousin's wedding. Was that when you wore that green dress?
Yeah.
Or was that
okay? So that was all back in 2004. Also wearing a green dress than what you're seeing here, but different green dress.
Right. Yes.
But this is from our engagement photos. But what I say is, it's important to note that when we first met, neither one of us had the relationship that we have with Jesus now.
Right.
So we met at a club, and we were living different lifestyles then. But one of the things that if I think back to when we met and kind of how everything kind of started off was he always has been that person who, like, regardless of what he was living, what lifestyle he was living, he had enough respect for me at the time, because at the time I was like, I was all for pursuing long distance and everything, and he just knew he was enjoying his life in the Philippines, and he didn't want to put me in a position where he like led me on to believe that he could maintain that relationship from that far. And so that's where we decided to be friends. And it wasn't until much later, after I had, given my life to Christ, and all the things that, you mentioned, going through so much, and really living this season of singleness that was honestly really hard for me. And that, like, we had, my gosh, so many talks. And I think, but it was just God's, I look back at that moment and those moments and how precious of a time that was, because I needed to have that one-on-one time with God. And when actually Eugene brought up the idea of us dating a couple years after his accident, and I was very like, here's what I'm expecting God to bring me in a husband. And I'm not saying you can't be there and get there, but you need to explore your relationship with Christ separately. That's what I did.
Just started.
Yeah.
Separate, not because of her.
Yeah, and it was a separate type of thing. And so then years later, I really had to take some time and pray about, okay, is this something that I bring up to him? And I was like, it feels weird, unnatural for me to bring it up, and I was super nervous bringing it up to him. And I just said, okay, here, I'm going to propose something, and I want you to pray about it, take a week, think, come back and tell me what your decision is. Because we kind of knew that whatever that decision was going to be, it was either like for the long haul or not, this wasn't just for fun. I mean, he was living up in Northern California. I was living in Southern California at the time. So, that's kind of what that looked like, that journey. So, I mean, I can go into a little bit more, but I wasn't sure if that's kind of what you were asking, but like what that looked like, in terms of making that decision and being married with different circumstances. So.
Yeah. And how crucial was who God was in your life? How crucial was that to playing a part in your decision to date and then to marry?
It was everything. And if I'm being honest, when we first got married, after we first got married, it was a tough realization, because it's so easy to get caught up with the world's expectations and the roles that a husband versus a wife is supposed to play, and what you expect and all of those things. And I think, like, once I was married, I was like, oh, wow, this is so different. Like, everything from like who does the chores to who's working and who's, making financial decisions and all of those things. And the world would tell you, okay, this is what the husband's supposed to do versus this is what the wife's supposed to do. And there was this part of me that was kind of mourning that. But when you realize that you have, you've entered into covenant, right? And God is at the center of that. And you realize we don't have to, like, quite literally, the Bible talks about it, like, not conforming to the ways of the world, like, and you have to, like, lean on that. And I look at it all the time. I'm like, man, you know what? We don't have the traditional roles in our household that many people do. But man, like,
quite opposite, actually.
In some ways it is, right? But it works, and it works for us. And it's God's grace on us, and it just works. I mean, I'm not saying we're perfect by any means, but it works.
Like she said, the realization that we had to learn a lot about each other with Max. I mean, after we got married, she had to realize the everyday struggle of me being injured. She would see just highlights for the weekend, for a couple of days.
Yeah.
But the everyday, like, some days I can't sit in my wheelchair. My body hurts, She never experienced that, because when we shared time together, when we were courting or in the engagement process, I would give my all effort just to be able to hang out. And complain and just be grateful that I'm there. But then we got married, like, you still lying down? No,
That's me being pregnant right now.
no, there's just a lot of adjustments. Like I couldn't figure out the role I was supposed to play. Being married to her, like I haven't had a job since my injury. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to have. Well, yeah, I'm just talking about like roles as a husband. Like ours is very different. It's almost backwards, actually. Like I do the cooking and cleaning, and she does the working.
It works.
It works, and it's this thing where I've had to remind him too. Like I'm just the vessel God's using to provide for our family. Like it's not me. It's just God is using me right now to provide, and but yeah, I mean, and then I'm just constantly amazed with everything he can do. Like I said it in my vows, like, that he, I forgot what I was saying, but like, he does it all. You'd be surprised. I mean, I wish we had like cataloged what it was like for him to raise twin infants. Cause I was going to work. We were living in Minnesota. He would figure out a way to take care full time of twin infants.
Wow.
Like some able-bodied people can't do that. And he was doing it without cleaning, without anything. And so it's like, you know what? Like, sure, we're one income household and all that stuff. And maybe we can't afford some of the things that others can't, but we have everything we need and more. In ways that we don't even think, right? And so I'm just super grateful. And
well, thank you.
You guys are so cute. Oh, I love it. And I was chuckling, so my dad's wife, my stepmom, she's Filipino. I know the Filipino community is very close. Just like it's like a community, but it's like you know what I'm saying? I don't want to say it wrong. It's a family, even if you don't know each other. It's like you found out you're Filipino and your family.
Yeah.
You call your neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it was just cute, how he was referring to you as, part German, but American, but then also Filipino American, and but just so cute just to see how the Lord, seriously, it is such a good fit. And I think it would be so awesome if every one of us could understand that whose rules, like why do we have to follow society's rules? You nailed it when you said God's using you, but really if we just looked at like God is the one that's providing.
Yes.
He's your provider. He's your household provider.
Absolutely.
Through you, the vessel. And then he is your teacher of your children through both of you, but then also through Gene, who homeschools. It's like, I think we put these, and you talk about it as well in your book, Gene, just about some of those just pressures that the world and society puts on that we think we need to fit it, in that same umbrella, and we don't. Yeah. It's like our mind shift really should be different. And just to say that, yeah, I'm just a vessel that God's using in my household. This is how it happens with the two of us. This is how it works in our family.
Yeah.
And then there's a freedom that comes from that.
Yeah.
There's a freedom that comes from that in a marriage. Now, obviously, y'all know I've never been married, but I love to learn and just I learn what I see from like couples such as yourselves and other couples that I just go, oh, that's so good. So I just had that aha moment as you were sharing right now. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I love watching our boys see us.
Oh.
All they know, right? But I think that like even just the level of compassion they have and it's just really, really cool to see. And so they're going to get to grow up with a unique perspective, right? And be able to share that with their friends and their
Ethan and Elliot. Now, how can you tell them apart?
They don't look alike.
They don't look alike at all to us. So
okay.
if you're around them enough, you can definitely tell them apart. And their personalities could not be more different. Oh my goodness. It's hard to believe yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, they're going to have so much fun with their baby sister.
They're very excited. Yes.
Yeah. And I know that your family also has moved, you know, even like for work. You started out in California, Atlanta, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and now Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I think you just have to be as a family, and you already do it. You model it so well. Just have to be willing to do whatever sacrifices are needed for that next season or that next chapter in your life. And so you do it so beautifully. And so is there anything else that you want to share with us? I'm going to open it up to a couple of people, maybe somebody on Facebook and someone on YouTube. If you have any questions, either about, you know, their faith or their marriage or Gene overcoming obstacles, you know, any of the above, but we are also going to be giving away 2 of the books today.
There you go.
And then I know you guys, it's so late over there. You are 2 hours ahead, so you're Central Standard Time, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
because the boys are asleep,
Yeah.
so this is like the most we probably talked without interruption in a while.
Oh, good. I'm glad I could be a part. How has it been for your families? Because your families are also located in other geographical locations.
I mean, I haven't seen my family here. That's been really hard for me.
Yeah.
We're able to see Andrea's parents and brother during the holidays, but they do. Your mom and dad came once before the holidays.
Yeah.
So we got to see them a couple times this year or last year. So
I mean, yeah, it's definitely hard, and it was so sweet. Like when they were here, I mean, Elliot and Ethan, like almost on a daily basis. Like, I'm so happy you're here. So I just purely enjoy having family around. You know, we do have a community at our local church, but just given COVID, we haven't really been meeting live. So that's been hard, but I think, you know, ordinarily, like we do, like we've been really fortunate to find amazing church communities every place we've moved. But right now, just given, you know, everything with Gene's situation, and then me being pregnant, we've been extra careful, which is because we knew we were being very careful and really not going out. We felt like, okay, we're gonna drive 16 hours to Florida from here and spend some time with our family. And so, you know, it was a hard decision that we didn't take lightly, but we made that decision because family was important. Spending the holidays with them was important to us. And California is a little bit further. I think it's a whopping 23-hour drive.
That's tough.
Yeah. So it can be tough. Hopefully in the near future, we can finally settle down for a little bit and really establish some roots. But I've been super blessed and super fortunate with the opportunities I have through my work. So
absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Well, I do have someone has a question, and I'm not sure if this is for Andrea, for Gene, or both, but what scripture has kept you going?
What scripture has kept me going? Jeremiah 29:11, for sure. I mean, I didn't know that verse when I was playing, but after I got hurt, my teammates wore it. And once I understood it, that's been my kind of go-to when things are getting rough, or even when the good times are happening. You know, he has the plans. He has your plans in mind.
That's right.
That's the verse.
For I know the thoughts.
Yeah.
For I know the thoughts that I think towards you.
Yeah, that's the one I go to on my daily.
How about you, Andrea?
I mean, you know, at the risk of sounding really cliche, but I think that there are oftentimes moments where I'm a thinker, right? And I try to like plan and strategize everything out and do everything. But, you know, in Proverbs, it talks about not leaning on your own understanding. And so I think I do go back to that like very often because, like I said, I want to try and figure everything out. And I, you know, I'm not perfect at it, but I need to remember that God has a plan.
Yes.
I need to check in on what that plan is probably more often than I am, because it's so easy to get carried away with what you think it should look like, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one that I would say is that, you know, in Ephesians, talking about he can do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think, because we're so limited in what we think we know. Again, like kind of again, that thinking part, me thinking I have it all figured out, and God's like, no, I have way more. You just wait. And I have it in a way that's going to roll out or unfold way differently than you see it in your head. And we had a couple of situations where it was like plain as day. Like God was like, yep, here's what you do and here's what you don't do.
Yeah.
Even about having this last child.
Yeah.
Like
from the answer to having it to the answer
to win,
or even to win.
Yeah, like a year ago, I spent some time in prayer, and for whatever reason, I just felt like God saying, "Wait," and it didn't make any sense. But what we didn't know was that there was going to be a pandemic. And you know, I don't mind sharing, but we did go through an IVF process. And so I had to fly to Atlanta because that's where we initiated everything. And even in that, like everything about that, like going to God and like just that whole process. And so we can't lean on our own understanding, and he's going to do it way better than we could even imagine.
Yeah.
Amen. Yes. In fact, somebody, Pat LaBouffe on YouTube, she said, untraditional works. As long as God is in the center, there's a reason why God put those two together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely, that is well said, Pat. Untraditional does work. And really, it's just however God wants to do it, traditional or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So good. So good. Well, it has been truly a joy to be able to see you both and to have you on our new show, on our new online show.
Yes. Thanks for having me. If you need me to come back again, we can hash out different areas.
we will hash out different topics.
Yeah. Let's go again.
Because there's so much in this book. I'm like, seriously.
The iceberg. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, you talked about fame built without any consideration of legacy. I mean, there's so many things that I just was like, wow. Even talked about the trade-offs. And then I was thinking of like Jacob and Esau and how people are just so willing to like just exchange something for a small moment of pleasure, something like of huge inheritance or of huge value to their family or to their life. I mean, just so many principles here that you talked about. So forgiveness, that's the other thing. Just letting go and forgiving. And you talked about even how a lot of your healing came after you just made the decision just to give it all to the Lord and forgive and let it go. You know, from the ex-girlfriend that cheated to, you know, your dad, you know, just saying, you know, I'm going to let go of the bitterness. I'm not hurt at all. I want to honor him. To Mick, you know,
changing the perspective of everyone saw me as the victim, but no one realized that he had to deal with a lot too. And I just wanted people to kind of look at that in their daily lives. You know, don't judge anyone because of what they're going through, because you sometimes don't know what they're actually going through at that moment. So you always have that empathy, and I think I've always had that. It was just heightened even much more now after my accident.
Yeah, I think some of that I was thinking, you know, that's probably who you already were. If that makes any sense. It's not like It's not like you had to like change. It's like, no, that was already in you. The empathy and the caring, all of those things. It just had to be fostered and put in the right atmosphere for it to grow.
Yeah.
But that's already who you are. And so, you know, I wanted to leave us with Jimmy. How do you say Jimmy Alapag?
Yeah.
Alapag. I love that he said, I hope that those who read your story see the beauty in your struggles, share in the joy of your successes, and feel the impact that God's love and guidance has had on your life. Continue to inspire the world, my brother, one step at a time. So I am right there with Jimmy saying and praying that for you, for Dre, for your family. Would you, Gene, would you just pray over our viewers, for those watching now, and then for those that will be on demand, for however God leads you, whether it's fear, paralyzed, unforgiveness, whatever. I'm just going to let you go.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time, this special moment to share my story and Andrea's story together to this audience, Lord. I pray for the people who are struggling, who are paralyzed in their own eyes with fear, guilt, shame, that they would break out in Jesus' name, and also for the viewers and listeners that watch this on demand, that they are blessed with the words that were spoken today, and that their eyes be open. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Yes, and you touched on shame in here too. I mean, there's so many things that we really need to have a part two of Ready to Rise part two.
I would have liked the dating one. That was a good one. That's the dating one, the whole breakup situation. I haven't really talked about that, but I think this is the perfect platform for it.
This is the perfect platform. Yeah, we'll have to bring you guys. I'll bring you on one of our singles episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
don't know what the single life is nowadays over there. It's like me and Andrea look like, well, we're not single anymore.
We need to hear.
We have to deal with a lot. Like there's tech involved and like the dating sites and all that. And like,
Yes. But we do need
my day.
we do need some wisdom though from y'all marrieds. We still need some wisdom. All right. Well, blessings to you both and to your whole family. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Again, we're going to just do a quick shout out again. Ready to Rise book. It is available on Amazon, and you can follow the Instagram for his book is at Ready to Rise 33, and on Facebook it's Ready to Rise. I don't know if it's Ready to Rise the book. I think it's maybe how I found
Ready to Rise, yeah. That's it. And you can follow me on Instagram. My personal is Eugene Tejada 33. And you can find, like you said, the book is on
Amazon,
all Barnes and Nobles, and all digital platforms.
Okay.
But yeah, can I get a shout out to some people I know that are watching?
Please do. We didn't talk about your Como because you're hosting a show.
Tomorrow.
Or is it Kumo? Kumo.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. Download the Kumu app. It's the Filipino community site, but everyone is welcome. There's a lot going on that site, but mine's more on the inspirational, kind of motivating, empowering people kind of channel. But yeah, I want to say hi to Edmer, who is watching in San Francisco. And I think JR is watching too from Castro Valley. Hi, guys. And if my sister's on, hi, Mom and Dad.
No.
They tried. I think they try to watch all of them, so I try to say hi.
I love that.
Appreciate that they're taking the time to watch.
Yes. Well, thank you both for taking the time to be on this show. Get a good night's rest, and we will have you back for show. And I'm excited about getting your book out there to one of each of our platforms, YouTube and Facebook. We're going to have some winners tonight. So absolutely. Thank you both. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you. You got it. My pleasure.
Okay.
All right. Oh, so good. There's so much so many things we could have talked about still. There's so much in this book. And so if you have not ever gone on Amazon, do it. Get this book, Ready to Rise. We are going to be giving 2 away today. One on Instagram, one on Facebook, and one on YouTube. We will be announcing the winner probably tomorrow on our Instagram, which leads me to, if you don't already follow us on Instagram, anewthing.live. Check us out, follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube. Our information should be there. Our A New Thing Live is our YouTube channel. And then on Facebook, we are A New Thing. And if we can get that information on the screen, our subscribe information, our Facebook information, that would be great if we could get it up on the screen. Can we get that up on the screen? And then our website, we have a new website. It is anewthinglive.com, and that is only 1 week new. And so we're adding to it a little bit each week. And so there's a little more on it today than there was last week, but we're just so excited. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. We do love you. We are here for you. If you don't already subscribe to us, when we're done with this show, just head on over to YouTube and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube and you don't subscribe, then just hit that subscribe button as soon as this show is over. We want you to be a part of our community. We've got a lot of great, if you think that was a great interview and an inspiration, we have so many wonderful things lined up for the month of January. We've got some fun things lined up. Next week is going to be inspiring, and it will also be fun as well. So I think we have 2 guests next week, and one of them, actually 3 guests, and one of them has 4 feet. Not just 2, but 4. So maybe that gives it away a little bit. But thank you so much for watching, for joining. Thanks again. A huge thanks again to both Eugene and Andrea Tejada for being a part of A New Thing Live. And thank you for joining and watching. Remember, there is something new for you to do. For every one of us, we all have an opportunity to do something new every week. And so you might know what that thing is, and you might just be a little bit fearful of stepping out, but now's the time to do it. So remember, whatever that new thing is for you, step out and do it. Grab a hold of it so that you can experience that new thing in your life. We'll see you next Monday right here on A New Thing Live.
Are you ready?